Welcome everyone to this episode of the Palmetto Guardian. I'm Sergeant Chelsea Weaver.
And I'm Specialist Anna Grace Cato.
And today we have what I think is a very exciting topic for those out there who are listening or watching. I'm going to have our guest go ahead and introduce herself, and then we're just going to get right into the topic.
Hi, I'm Sergeant First Class Caren Lucas, and I am the Enlisted Promotions Manager.
Awesome. So, Enlisted Promotions Manager. We are here to talk about enlistments. I know that is a hot topic. I think we might have talked about, you weren't here. I think a long time ago when we first started the podcast, we had someone come on, but I know there's probably changes and there's new soldiers who really don't know the process and stuff like that. So if you kind of just want to dive right in, and then we can just ask questions based off of what you're talking about, and we can just go from there.
Okay, so Enlisted Promotions, it all kind of starts it's cyclical, right? It all starts with a schedule that's published that gives suspense dates, and you got to meet time and service, time and grade to be eligible for promotion. But once you get to E4, so E1 all the way to E4 is automatic. It's called decentralized. It's automatic, hit time and grade, time and service. As long as you're not flagged, you'll automatically be promoted. Now, promotion from E4 and above, you have to go on a list, which requires board process and a promotion packet. And to start all that, we publish a schedule to let you know, hey, this is when you need to complete your DLC. Make sure you have your NCOERs completed. Make sure your records are squared away. And once we hit those suspense dates, actual boards happen. Your packet is looked at, the soldier's packet's looked at, and the board members make determinations, give ratings based off of baselines that we have. These baselines are published in our AGPAM, which is it's a state document. It's our policy and procedures. We have information that's in there is based off regulatory guidance, PPOMs, and just state policy and how we process stuff. So the baseline's in there to know what the members on the board are looking at or should be looking at. So soldiers can pretty much be prepared for what the board's going to be looking at and how maybe they should rate them based off what their last eval was. So once the boards are completed, we merge them all together, sort them out by OML, and then that's when the list is published. Most of the time, I'll get questions after the list is published, wanting to know, why did I end up where I ended up? Mm-hmm. What can I do to be better? Or, so-and-so did, they're number one and they're not, whatever. I always tell them that, you got to review your records. Mm-hmm. One of the documents when we're getting ready to do boards is 4100. And on there, you initial, you sign. A lot of times when we initial and sign, we don't really read what we're initialing and signing. So that's kind of a catch too, is you got to read it. And in there it says hey, I'm reviewing my perms. Some of the main documents are your eval. A lot of times HQDA gets overloaded and yes, your eval was sent to HQDA. That's great. But if it doesn't make it in your perms, it's not going to make it in your board file. So keep tracking those evals to get them completed and get them pushed all the way to your perms is very, very critical. Another one is your record brief. I don't know, your record brief is a snapshot of your career. It's got assignments, awards, schools you've completed. Has a lot of information on one sheet of paper. Having that, a current record brief that's been reviewed not only by the soldier but by a full-time admin person and put in their perms is also really, really important. And the last thing is, if something in your perms does not explain your career or is missing, it's missing, soldiers only have so much control over what goes in their perms. They can do a letter to the president of the board. So they can write a letter directly to the president of the board addressing what's missing, or maybe if there's something in their perms they don't think should be in there, they can address it. And then all the board members will read, it goes in their board file, and they'll read this memo and take that into consideration when they're looking at the baseline and granting points. So The biggest thing that I would say for enlisted soldiers moving forward, as this year we've already wrapped up all of the boards. The last list went live or goes live on 1 July, and that's the E4 to E5, but it's already published. We're just waiting. There's 15 days of admin review after it publishes before it goes live. But so that list is already done. So where everyone's at is kind of where you're at. All the soldiers can do now is to look forward into the future, get evals knocked out, make sure they're as well written as you can, make sure the bullet comments match the rating, and make sure your perm file's squared away, so that next board season you have the best packet that you can possibly have for yourself, and you can be truly evaluated on your accomplishments.
Okay. That is a lot of information.
That was a lot.
No,
yeah, sorry.
but no. It's great because as you started talking, all these questions just popped into my head.
Good.
The first thing I want to address before we move any further, because the military is so well known for their acronyms. Can you kind of explain, it's a PPOM?
So a PPOM comes from sometimes Big Army, sometimes NGB, and it so like right now we have temporary promotions. Right, I feel like everyone knows about temporary promotions. It's not in the regulation, but it's a PPOM that it's NGB sends down like, hey, either the state can do this or it's PPOMs for the state has to do this. And the temporary promotion PPOM, which is 23-003 alpha, that one says, hey, if commanders are authorized to grant temporary promotion for soldiers who have not completed their NCOES. Which right now in the regulation we're under STEP, so select, train, promote. So a soldier can be selected for promotion if they've not completed their NCOES for the next higher grade, but they can't be promoted. This temporary PPOM allows commanders to temporarily promote their soldiers until they complete their NCOES. There is a time frame, there are stipulations, and it's not a requirement. But PPOMs can be found online. I think it's S1Net. If you Google just PPOMs, it'll bring you up. It's either MilConnect or S1Net that'll bring up there, and it has published all of the ones for this current FY and any previous FY. Great resource for admin as a whole. But
yeah, well, I've never heard of it because I've been in for over 12 years now, and I think when I enlisted, you could get promoted before you went to school. Then they changed it to where you had to go to school. Now they're going back. So I don't think it was ever explained that it's a temporary thing. I think, because I was I'm technically in that situation, and I had to sign a counseling, and I was like, I don't even understand what this is for. And so when I was asking the commander, he's like, I appreciate you actually sitting here and reading it, because everybody just signed it. And I'm like, but I don't know what this means.
What does it mean?
If I'm looking at a thing that says, if you get flagged, you're going to get demoted. And I'm like, wait, what? What did I do? I'm so confused. So I didn't realize it was a temporary promotion because I haven't gone to school yet. I think people just assume that it just went back to the way it was, and that there's no real stipulations to it other than you need to finish school in a certain amount of time. But no, if you don't meet the other requirements, you can be affected as well. Right. So that's why I wanted to bring that up first before we kind of moved on. But when it comes to the list, it's specific based off of rank. So like you were saying, E4 to E5, E5 to E6, and then it's also based off of MOS as well. Right. So it's not just your unit, it's all the units or all the people who are doing the same job that you're doing, that you're competing against. And I think a lot of the soldiers don't realize that, they compare themselves to everybody. Like you said, when the list comes out, they're like, why is this person above me? Like this and that, because maybe they see their worth ethic, or maybe they know that they did something they weren't supposed to do, or they've been flagged or whatever, but it's not like the requirements to get promoted aren't always those external things that you're seeing. Correct. It's these behind the scenes things. Like you don't know if they had college, you don't know if they've done all these other things that have boosted their points, time in service, all that kind of stuff. Right. So can you kind of you don't have to go into super detail, but can you kind of explain maybe how that process works, and things that could help you earn more points, or I know you said in the packet there's specific things they're looking for. Like, what specifically are they looking for that gives you those points to be able to get higher on the list?
So promotion to E5 and E6, you get admin points. That's like a baseline, is you get admin points. And those admin points are based off of awards you've received, your PT test score, your weapons qual, your civilian education, your military education, any correspondence courses you've done, you get points for that. So that is completely under the control of the soldier, right? If you get a higher PT score, that's going to give you more points. Every category maxes out, so you can't, I have a whole bunch of awards, but I'm really, really bad at PT, but having a whole bunch of awards, I've got, 500 points. It doesn't work that way. They all max out at a certain amount. But the other side of it is the leadership aspect, which is evaluated based off your evals. So when you're doing a paper packet, the admin points for promotion to E5 to and E6, that's automatic. That's figured based off what you have and what you've done. It's pretty much baseline. But it's the leadership part that can get a little bit sticky. Your evals can say a lot about what you've done. Having a rater that's good at writing evals compared to a rater that's not so good at writing evals could affect you too. But it's not necessarily just the ranking that you receive, like meet standard or exceed standard, but it's also the comments itself. If it's a well-written eval, it could even it's gonna boost your points, because the members on the board aren't necessarily, they shouldn't be rating you based off of, oh, I know this guy, and he's really good, or she's really good at so-and-so, and they're super high speed, and yeah, I think they deserve this. That's not how this is. We try to do our best, and I think we do a pretty good job of putting board members on that are very unbiased. We make sure that we've got a variety of MOSs, and we've got a variety of different units and different levels, different echelons. So you may have a brigade soldier, you may have a battalion soldier, and you may have a unit soldier on this as a board member. But they're looking at it based off your NCOER. So if you have one that you exceed standards all the way down the line, and you're comparing yourself to, or maybe you're a Met standard all the way down the line, which is not bad eval, because that's the goal, is to meet the standard, right? But you're being compared to someone who exceeds the standard. They're going to get a better score than you are, just based off their eval and their rating.
So with those evals and the boards, the verbiage kind of matters more, not more than, but the verbiage matters a lot. Like what your rater writes down.
I think it's both. If you have, you could be exceed standard on as far as, the blocks that are checked. But if your comments are very basic and they're not exceed the standard, and they're like, you basically did your job, the soldier or the member of the board that's reviewing it they're looking at the comments, and they're looking at the block that's checked. So if the comments are substandard, they're Met standard type bullet comments, then that exceed standard part is a personal opinion that doesn't match. So
right.
The board members, most of them are very seasoned, so they know to look at both, and they're going to read the comments. They're not going to just go off of what block was checked. They're going to make sure that those are quantitative, that they match.
Mm-hmm.
So after the selection process, so let's say for this year, because everything's done for this year,
right.
And the list gets published, do your points start over, or how does that part work?
So the lists that are live right now will be live for the entire FY until we get into our next cycle, which will start about February, which is when we'll start doing the boards over again. Where you are at on your OML will stay, or that list will be live until the new list publishes. When you're new, when we're beginning a new cycle, if you're getting promoted to E5 or promoted to E6, your admin points, it's not going to be not necessarily it's going to be the same as it was last year, because maybe you got an RCOM, or you finished your civilian education, or, that's going to up your admin points. And then you should have at least one eval during that duration. So that eval, you can better yourself by going above and beyond in your job, or helping your rater write your eval by giving them your support form, whether you do it in EES, which is how you're technically supposed to do it, or if you do a Word document and give it to your rater and let them know, like, hey, these are the accomplishments that I did over the FY, and, put this on my eval.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to mention that before you asked the question. Was it's important. So I think when people enlist, they kind of just go with the flow of things, and no one really tells them like what the next step is, or things that they should work towards and all that kind of thing, unless they have like a really good team leader, squad leader, platoon sergeant. Like, I mean, when I first enlisted, I didn't think of any of this because no one talked to me about it. Nobody was like, hey, if you want to get to this goal, like, you need to do these things. It was kind of like I showed up to drill, went home, that was it, got a paycheck. Now being on the full-time side, I mean, I've done ADOS orders, I've deployed, now I'm a technician. Like, I've seen all the different sides, and I've learned so much. Like, it's insane. And it frustrates me, and I know other people, because there's so many soldiers that come in all the time and nobody teaches them these things. And then whenever, like you said, the lists come out and people are upset because Joe Schmo is above them and they don't think that they're as good, or whatever the case may be. But they don't have that understanding of like the things that can help boost your points, like things that you should be doing throughout the year for your eval. And until I had my first eval as a sergeant, I never thought that it was important to keep track of that stuff. Right. It is, because once you get to that, once you're sitting down writing that eval, it's like, wait, what did I do this year? Right. You're not going to remember. And so like, if you're constantly keeping track of, okay, I went above and beyond and did this, or I was promoted to a team leader as whatever, like, and you're keeping track of those things, it makes it so much easier when you go to write your eval, because I've witnessed people sitting there like pulling teeth trying to find bullet points, and it's like, it's frustrating. Year, yeah, exactly. And not only that, but I don't think a lot of people realize that doing more than just showing up is important. Right. And being role models for those newer soldiers that are coming up behind you, like, that stuff helps. And if you're passing on the knowledge to them, then they're going to pass the knowledge on. So I think that's very important, to be known that, hey, like, you need to keep track of your stuff. Like, your platoon sergeant, your commander, your first sergeant, they're not going to keep track of any of that. Like, it's your responsibility to do that. Yeah,
I'm going to be honest. I had no idea that, like, even the boards were a thing until a couple of drills ago. And they're like, oh, hey, we saw your packet, whatever, and you got a lot of points or something. I said, wait, what? What are you talking about? But it's also important for newer enlisted soldiers to ask questions, because I did. I was like, walk me through that. How does that work? Like, what goes on?
Right. Yeah, I agree. What I do is, and for me, it didn't dawn on me how important career progression was for myself. You know, I, like most enlisted, I expected that my command was going to decide, you know, when I was going to take the next pay grade or duty position or whichever. It wasn't until I was about an E5 until I realized, like, man, you know, if I want to get E6, I need to worry about me, and I need to make sure that my stuff is squared away and my paperwork is good. And I started keeping, you know, you see people carrying those green binders or, you know, those little green books. Everyone always has it. And yes, it's to take notes, but it's also, it's you can go back into it and be like, oh, okay, you know, yeah, I did this, you know, SRP, or I did this, you know, this extra duty that I did, or extra tasks that I was given, and here's how I performed it. It's just a way for you to keep track of what you're doing. But then also, as a supervisor or a rater, it would be good to you kind of have that for your soldier. So, you know, you don't need them to tell you what they did, because that's your soldier. You should know. But it's good for them to give you feedback on what they did, and then you give them, like, you know, yes, you did all these great things, but did you know, you remember you also did this. They might have forgotten it or whatnot. So keeping a binder or a green book, not just on yourself, but also on your subordinates, I think is important.
Yeah, it's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, I have mine right here taking notes
There
for the
you go.
podcast. I have a cover on mine, but yeah, I swear it's a green book.
Green book.
So with that, I know one thing too that's been kind of difficult for M-Day soldiers is accessing different, like their I-perms and all that stuff, because a lot of it has to be done on a government computer and all that. And there's all these forms that when you do your records review, they're like, you look at it and it looks like another language because it's numbers and slashes and like all this stuff, and nobody ever sits down. Like, I still don't understand it, and I've asked multiple times, like, can somebody please explain this to me, like the retirement points and all that.
Right.
Because it's confusing. Like, if you're not admin, you don't know how to do that unless someone tells you. And so with the points and everything, like you were saying, is like, how can soldiers view those kind of things before it gets to the point where it's at the board level and they really don't have any, like, they can't add anything into it? Like, how can they keep track of that so they kind of know where they're at, so that they're not surprised whenever the boards get done and they're like, well, why did I only get this many points?
Right.
Kind of thing.
So IPSA has kind of helped us get there. Right now in Release 3, soldiers can go into self-service and they can review their promotion points worksheet. And that's going to automatically populate data that's in IPSA and DTMS. So in these other systems, it's going to populate what the points would be based off of the score that you have, or how much awards you have in there. So that's one way to do it. And IPSA, you should, my understanding, I haven't tried it myself, so I can't say absolutely. You should be able to get on your phone and look at yourself, because it's not PII, but get on your phone, go under self-service, and you can look at your promotion point worksheet that way. But also, if you're reviewing your record brief, which you could Google review my record brief, and it will pop up a link for you to go into. You do have to have a CAC card. That doesn't necessarily mean a government computer. It is easier on a government computer, but having a CAC card to get into the system. But reviewing your record brief and seeing what awards are showing up on there, because whatever shows on your records brief is what is in the system. If you're trying to figure out like how many points you get for what, that's all in the regulation, AR 600-8-19. Those points are baseline, they're regulatory requirements. It's not something that's sneaky hidden over here. It's all published requirements.
Is there anything else that you would like to add? I mean, we have talked about a lot. I feel a little bit better now, kind of understanding things, and I hope everyone listening or watching has learned something. But is there anything else that maybe we haven't talked about, or advice you want to leave us with, or just anything in general?
So you kind of hit on it. A lot of times you're doing records reviews, or you're given a piece of paper to sign, and being in the military, we're used to just signing and trusting that person that's given it to us. I would encourage you not to do that. Ask questions. If you don't understand what it is you're signing or what it is you're reading, ask questions, and get initiative and make yourself knowledgeable on whatever that form is, because that form could be, it could hurt you, it could help you. Maybe the data on it is wrong, and you not understanding what you're signing, you're basically, you could be signing wrong data. So ask questions. Don't just blindly sign stuff. Make sure you know what you're putting your John Hancock on.
Absolutely. I think that's the best thing to kind of end this on.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming in. I would like to leave with the audience that if there's anything that maybe we haven't talked about or questions people have, send us a message on social media, or leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube, because we can always do another series to this to kind of build off of these questions that we've already gone over. So if anybody's who is watching or listening, reach out to us some way, shape, or form, and let us know if there's anything else that you want us to touch on, and we could definitely answer those questions in the future. But if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.